Okay, so the question is, what does student loan forgiveness mean, and why is that a bad thing, in my opinion, anyway? So, what it means is multiple different definitions. One of the past, matter of fact, the guy with the mittens, he was a profound proponent about just forgiving student loans. So let me give you a couple things about student loans. First of all, so a student loan has a name just like any other security that is out there. So a student loan, where I'm in the mortgage business, and our securities are called MBSs, mortgage-backed securities. What that means is somebody puts together these securities. Basically, if you'll think of it as the deed to a property, the description of a property, and they have funded these loans. Now they have them in a package of securities. They will sell them off. So I think we need to go back. So that name is SLABs, Student Loan Asset-Backed Securities. Student Loan Asset-Backed Securities. That's what a student loan is. The idea behind a student loan was for somebody to be able to take out a loan against future earnings so they could get the education, the books, the labs, whatever it may be, the housing while they were in college. Now, let's go back a couple steps. The very first one that we want to step back to is the fact that the U.S. government produces nothing. It is not the U.S. government's money, so to speak, to just willy-nilly give out and give away, things like that. What these are taxes. So you and I, who pay payroll tax and sales tax and state tax and things like that, we pay the taxes. And when we pay the taxes, these taxes are used by the government in some, not all, in some insurance policies for student loans. And we'll get into that later. But so the very first thing is the government didn't come up with this money to send you to school, to pay for your housing, to pay for your books, things like that. For the most part, this is private money. This is money that was either put up by individuals, by banks, that banks loan money, just to make sure we're all clear, banks loan money on deposits. So if you put $1,000 into your checking account, they're using that money to loan that money to other people so they can keep revenue generating in that bank. So the first thing we have to realize is that this money was not just printed. There wasn't just a check somewhere. Somebody had to put up real money that was earned to be able to loan that money. That's the very first thing. We got to realize that this is somebody else's money. Now, the second thing that we have to remember is because these are securities, because they're securities, they were sold as a closed package, as a closed loan to other investors. Now, what does that mean? So if you'll think about it this way, and this is the way that I explained it to Bethany. Her father was an engineer for NASA, computer software engineer for NASA for years. So here's what people don't tell you that I want you to think about from now on when you think about just giving up on paying back a loan. So Bethany's father, God, I hope he doesn't get mad that I'm using him. Bethany's father invested his money as he was working either into some sort of retirement account, individual retirement account, 401k, government-sponsored retirement account, whatever it may be, I don't know. Now, these accounts take that money and bring it in, and they buy securities with this money. So what that means, Bethany's dad put $100 in towards retirement on any specific week into whatever system they had, whether, and I don't know if it was NASA's or if it was a contractor or whatever it may be. And then those people that worked for that group, it was their job to invest that money into a margin or yielding investment that brought back not only the original amount of Bethany's father's money, but also a percentage back in profits because his money was used to help whatever that may be. So an easy way to think about this is if you'll think about your money on deposit at the bank right now, it's probably getting 0.02%, 0.05% yield or return. But if you went to that same exact bank to get a car loan or a boat loan or a jet ski loan or whatever, they're going to charge you 4.5% or 5% interest. So what they've done is they've taken a whole bunch of people's money and they're paying them a small amount, 0.02, 0.05. They're lending it to somebody else and gaining the difference, the spread, the margin between the 0.02 that they're paying the depositor and the 5.5% that they're charging the borrower. So that's where banks make their money somewhat. It's the same thing. So when you look at student loans, that was seen as a security, and the NASA 401k or the Teachers Credit Union of Arkansas or California or whatever it may be, whatever business it was, or on your individual retirement account that you have through in any one of the multitude of investment channels that are out there, they invested money into either a student loan backed security or a bond that backed that security, one of those type of vehicles. So that's how the money appeared to loan to you to be able to do what it is that you wanted to do. You're the one who signed up for it. Nobody put a gun to your head. Nobody said, you better take this loan out. You're the one who signed for it. It's yours. You owe it, just like a car loan, just like a mortgage, anything else. So that money wasn't just found money. It was actually earned by somebody and then invested by them, their corporation, the vehicle that they chose to use, whatever it may be. So at that point, when we talk about student loan forgiveness, what we're talking about is erasing a debt or a portion of a debt that was bought for that specific security. So the way that I explained it to Bethany was, because it sounded like a great idea, if these people that are smart enough to run for president of the United States can drop this one all the time, it sounds like a great idea. When they say we'll just forgive the debt, well, hell, that makes you think, one, that they themselves personally or whoever they represent have the power and the authority to just forgive it, or that they're the ones who somehow funded this to be able to forgive it. So the way it makes it sound is if I was Bethany's dad and I loaned her $20 to go out for the weekend, and then on Monday I said, you know what, don't worry about it, I hope you had a good time. That's my choice to be able to forgive that debt. Up until that point, she owed me $20 when it came back to Monday that she had borrowed from me. So what is happening now is we're using this, in my opinion, as a political ploy, as a soundbite, whatever it is you want to say, to be able to gain votes or whatever it may be. But here's the issue with that. That money was actually earned and it was actually invested. So if somebody forgives that debt or somebody says that you don't have to pay your student loans back, that money just doesn't disappear. Here's what happens. You and I may even have some of our investments into those student loan backed securities. Your parents, your grandparents, if your grandparents are on some sort of retirement system, retirement program where they're getting money from the money they've invested all these years, basically what you're doing is you're now saying, okay, Grandma, even though you've been counting on this money every month to live on, it's now gone. There is no security anymore. It is gone. So, Grandma, you had $50,000 worth of student loans in your portfolio, and now nobody owes anything anymore. So your 50 grand is now gone. It's wiped out. It is no more. So this is the biggest reason why I hate the idea of student debt forgiveness, student loan forgiveness. I don't know what the oversight is. I don't know where so much of this comes from, and it's not really my duty unless it was something that I wanted to invest in. But I do think it's your duty to find out if maybe you have investments in any student loan debt, if any of your securities are in student loan debt, because what I'm reading is the newly elected president wants to do $10,000 in student debt relief or whatever he wants to call it. And then my understanding is Chuck Schumer wants to bump that up to $50,000. Well, you've got to remember, none of those guys, the guy in the mittens, none of them ever came up with the idea it's not their money that they loaned you. So for them to be able to say, you know what, never mind, you don't owe me anymore. And if there is in some sort of system that the government will take care of those securities that backed it, all that really means is that our taxes that we pay in are now being diverted to cover those funds that have been erased. So the biggest thing you've got to take away from this, one, is the fact that the government does not produce any money whatsoever. It operates on our tax dollars. Whatever we send them is what they operate on. The second one is you've got to remember, whenever somebody wins, somebody else loses. So if it's considered a win for student loans to be forgiven and they don't owe anything, then the people who lose are the ones that counted on and trusted that money to be there when they retire. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of student loan debt forgiveness, because if you're watching this and you're somebody who has student loans, when your debt is erased, that means your parents just lost that money in their retirement portfolio. Think about it that way.